So just a little bit about what I do. There's basically three things that I do here at WISE. One, I work with really cool employment agencies that are looking to expand access to their services or moving away from segregated services into more community-based services. That looks different in a whole bunch of different communities. Here at WISE, we're lucky enough to work in a lot of different communities and see the way that people live their lives and in their unique and beautiful ways. So that's really fun. The second thing that I do is I work with really innovative transition programs that, and also more broadly, specialized education programs to make sure that that last year of transition is remarkably similar to the first year after transition. Because we know from research that this is the best way to make sure that everyone who wants to work can work. And third, I work with individuals who are perceived to be at risk for losing access to integrated community settings because of something that they're doing or something that is happening to them. What I do is I use tools like positive behavior support, applied behavior analysis, systematic instruction, and technology to help interpret and translate communication so we can better meet people's needs. Let's talk a little bit about what I want to do with this webinar. So there's a lot of content that's going to be coming out of WISE in the next month, next 2 months. And so I don't think this is the last time that I'm going to be up here. I want to do some work, bring to you some information that I've been collecting on video resumes, on positive behavior supports, on a whole bunch of different things. But I just felt that it would be a little disingenuous to be here for the first time during COVID and not really respond to the current situation in the best way that I can. I want to offer a roadmap for you all that are looking for information on how you can serve people during this crisis. But second, I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to ensure that people in service are respectfully being kept informed, safe, and connected to service. I also want to do my part in helping to make sure that our employment system, the system that I love, that I've in many ways grown up in, stays whole and healthy so that when we restart from staying home, we can do so in a really thoughtful way. Getting ready for this webinar, I've had a lot of chats with people, and one of the chats that really stuck out for me was a colleague of mine. She's actually on the webinar team here, Charlie Walters. And a side note, she is an excellent thinker on job development. I know that she does some work in our online academy on the job development topic, and she'll also most likely be doing something like this in a forum like this soon around topics that have to do with job development. But she was pointing out to me that this employment system might have an opportunity when this is all over to restart in a really creative way. Makes me think, what can we do right now to make that happen? Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? Let's think about learning objectives here. So first, those of you on the call, you're going to be leaving with nine ideas for potentially billable activities. And the way that you're going to recognize this in the presentation is any of the slides that are bright yellow is, in my opinion, a potentially billable activity. So I'll highlight those to you, and then you'll also be getting copies of my presentation, and you'll also get a resource sheet that will link to you some of the resources that I point out. I want to clarify here, when I say potentially billable activities, I use that word very purposely. I do not have an inside source to government funders. I know what some of the messaging has been coming from DDA here in Washington State. But we have people from all over the country, maybe in other countries as well, that are here with us today. So when I say potentially billable, what I mean is stuff that I think would, A, really help the person in service right now stay safe and understand the situation that we're in, but also give you some tools that you can do right now to help that restart happen in a really good way. But it will be really up to you to have conversations with your funders and the people that pay you to do your work to understand if those services truly are billable. Two, you will have some ideas on how you can use supported employment strategies to help people significantly impacted by their disability understand social distancing and how to stay safe. So, so important. And then since it is Friday, even though sometimes every day feels like Friday in this current reality, it actually is Friday today. At the end, I want you to meet a friend of mine, Fantasy A, who is really creative at using art and social media in cool ways to stay connected to his people. So that's what we're here today for. And if there's anything that I can do to better connect this content to your experience, please let us know. There'll be some points that I'll be taking pause in our presentation today to make sure that we're attending to why you signed up and joined us in the first place. So, could this be an opportunity? I want to, at the start here, I want to clarify that I'm going to offer you two kinds of supports and activities. That they're going to look kind of the same, but there really are two things that we're looking at here. First, we're looking at supports and activities that you, the service provider, can be doing with families and people with disabilities to help right now. And when I say help, I mean help understand social distancing, helping to stay safe and helping to stay supported. So we can call these type of activities short-term activities. And second, there's stuff that you can be doing with people in service to maintain connection to employment. But more important maybe is getting ready to start employment back up in an even better situation than we left it. So when I say we could start employment better than how we left it, I invite you to go to the chat box right now and tell me what you think that means. What do you think it means to have a better employment system than the one that we left, depending on where you are, a week ago, a couple weeks ago, next week? What would it take? What would it look like for this world to be better than what we had before? William talks about planning and research. Jordan talks about better supports, better fit for his clients. Janet talks about some ample time for things that maybe we didn't have time for in the past. Emily talks about better natural supports, more customized tasks. Yeah, your mind is on it. When I think better, I think people in service being more independent from you, maybe more interdependent on people who aren't paid to be with them, such as natural supports, and being able to work more hours, being able to truly have a job that will lift that person out of poverty. That's what I mean by this could be an opportunity. I do want to be careful though with this word opportunity, because I recognize that this is a tough situation for a lot of people, and that there are people that are really struggling out in the world today, and there are people who are dying. And so I don't use this word opportunity lightly, because I know that the struggle is real, and without naming names, the struggle is real in our own community here in the WISE circle. So I just want to be careful with that. But the reality, I think, stands that there are some things that we can take from this that should be helpful when we move forward. So, sound too good to be true? Let's find out. Let's start here. In my opinion, there are three big umbrella areas that job coaches, transition specialists, transition teachers play with to help someone with a disability find, learn, and keep their job. So those areas are hard skills, soft skills, and adaptive skills. So let's define these out before we dive into some different strategies here. So hard skills. So hard skills are skills that you gain through education, training programs, certifications, on-the-job training. These are typically quantifiable skills. So if you are a barista, a hard skill is the ability to grind the proper amount of coffee, tamp it into the portafilter and pull a great shot. My example here from the definition, which I've in the resource sheet that I've shared you, I've linked this webpage where this came from. A hard skill for an IT professional might be computer programming, and a hard skill for a carpenter might be knowledge of wood framing. So these are the skills that are involved with actually doing the task that is involved with the person's job. Next up are soft skills. So soft skills are communication abilities needed for success on the job. And I have a hard time with this word ability, actually. I didn't want to change the definition because for me, the word ability kind of, it sounds like something that you're born with. And there are a lot of people that have shown us that soft skills are something that you can learn. So if somebody tells you that somebody is just not capable of learning in this area, you tell them that Shaun told you that that's not true. Soft skills characterize how a person interacts with his or her relationships with others. Soft skills are similar to emotions insofar as that they're really hard to measure, but they kind of give you that ability to read another person and interact. And then finally, this last area are executive functioning skills. So these skills include planning, making choices, time management, impulse control, organization. So these, in addition to soft skills, these are the sets of skills that make the difference between a job with a few hours and a job, you know, a real part-time or full-time job that can actually help lift somebody out of poverty. So this is where we're going to spend some of our time. But let's go back to hard skills for a second. So again, these are the skills that are required to do the actual job. So hear me out here for a second. I think that us employment folks in transition classrooms focus way too much on hard skills. Here's why. So first, unless specific education is required for the job, most employers tend to like training up their own people in the way that they want the task done. Two, most of us trainers are generalists in our background and not experts. So let's just take me, for example. In this last year, I've helped people get jobs at pharmacies, coffee shops, technology companies, this really wild hydroponic salad grower, some breweries, a whole bunch of different places. Now, the only job out of those that I've have like lived experience in is the coffee shop. Now, this is even more relevant in transition classrooms. It is really rare that I see a task done in a transition internship that closely resembles actual tasks done by supported employees. Now, the notable exception here is project search sites. Now, that does not mean, I'm not arguing that these tasks are not relevant to the education of the student. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But it's just really hard for a person to simulate a job in a building, or if the transition classroom is lucky enough to get off campus, to simulate that job in a way that is relevant to the way that the person's going to get a job in a couple years when they graduate. And two, things change so quickly in the world of employment that what somebody is looking for today is going to be very different than what someone's looking for in a couple years. And third, I think that we need to remember it's not our jobs to be experts in tasks themselves. It's our job to know the people that we serve. It's our job to create accommodations to access employer training, for example. It's our job to design supports that enable and empower communication. It's our job to create tools that help someone progressively, and what I mean by progressively means that we're always growing, that we respect that just because someone has a disability doesn't mean that they cannot be lifelong learners. That we create tools that help someone progressively get more independent. Tools like calendars, schedules, choice boards, and self-monitoring. And I think that this over-focus on hard skills, and this is purely Shaun's opinion, this is not the opinion of WISE, I think that this over-focus is part of the reason why our field gets stuck on certain jobs for supported employees. So feel free to add in the chat box what you think some of these jobs that we get stuck on. Some of these jobs could be folding pizza boxes, or cleaning up cafeterias, or we used to have this saying, flowers, files, and filth, or we can kind of move that word around a little bit. But those are jobs that we know. Those are jobs that support employees have had experience with. And so we've got janitorial, cleaning, grocery carts, courtesy clerks. These are jobs that the society has experienced seeing people with disabilities do. These are jobs that your organization has lived experience and organizational experience in helping people get. But if we realize that our job as employment consultants is not to be an expert in all these tasks, but rather to be an expert and to know the person that we're serving and to connect and network with the community. Those experts in the tasks are out there, and our job to find them. Now, this doesn't mean that employment folks should not be focusing on hard skills. You still need to assess someone's skills and abilities. You still need to figure out in functional ways what someone can do and what they like doing. Just don't make it the focus of your inquiry when trying to get to know somebody. Instead of making those hard skills the focus, you're making those hard skills the vehicle to help understand how to best support somebody. So this brings us to our first, I wish I had a drum roll. Could you all just I know that we don't have our microphones on, but could you all just kind of drum roll your fingers for me here? So you're drum rolling right now. We've got our first potentially billable activity. So number one, virtual assessment. So I've been hearing from a number of really creative employment consultants, one of them being my friend Ashley Allison of Trillium Employment Services, that are trying to figure out how to do this remotely. So from what I gather, what this can look like is, first, you're going to organize a meeting with the family and the person, or possibly just the person, virtually. This could be through Zoom. Zoom offers free up to 40-minute chats. It could be through FaceTime. It could be through Duo, which is a Google product. It can be, there's a lot of different ways that you can access somebody at home. And this actually, let me veer off in a tangent here for a second. It's important to know, and part of your assessment, and this is helpful in employment or during this COVID-19 situation, it's important to know what type of technology is in the home that you're working in. So if you primarily use FaceTime, which is an Apple product, but the family that you work with only has Samsung, they're not going to be able to access that FaceTime call. So your first question really is what access somebody has to that video technology, and then it's your job to figure out how to make that work for what you're doing. Okay, so you've done that. You're going to organize a meeting with the family or the person, or just the person themselves, and gather some common household items that can be used to assess skills. You're going to send a list of those items to the family ahead of time, verify if they have the stuff that roughly matches your own, and you're going to use that virtual connection to try out a variety of tasks using those items. So that's the first thing. And I'm not going to dwell too much more on hard skills because I think that's I think there's some real potential for playing with the soft skills in this time of quarantine and staying at home. Okay, so let's move to thinking about soft skills here for a second. So again, these are the bread and butter skills of what you do as an employment consultant or a teacher. So you will be using hard skills as the vehicle to teach these soft skills. So I'm seeing some chats here where people are sharing that in their localities that they have really great, robust transition programs that offer real skills, and that's great. We need to remember, though, that even if those are real skills that exist today in the community, they might not match the real skills that are going to exist for that person, or the opportunities that will exist for that person in 5 years. So I'm not saying that these hard skills aren't important. It's just that you're going to use these hard skills to make sure that somebody has the soft skills and the executive skills that they need to stay to stay employed. It's the soft skills that get people fired. It's not the hard skills. Ask any employment consultant that question and they will tell you. These are the skills that make the difference between a 4-hour per week job or a 20-hour per week job, because they build connections, they build reciprocal communication with the person in service and the natural supports. So my potentially billable activity number 2 is interview prep. So this would be virtual and recorded. You can there's many opportunities to practice, and you can imagine what this would look like. It's pretty easy to imagine what a virtual interview prep could look like. But I have a challenge for you here. Can you bring in potential employers to help you with these interviews? People in your network or JD contacts. Maybe this is a way for you to stay connected to the people that you are in job development with right now. Give them something to do so they stay connected to you and they remember what you do. My colleague, Debbie Moore, she's incredible, and she'll probably be up here on one of these Zoom platforms soon. She creates these brilliant interview practice, mock interview prep sessions with business leaders through Rotary meetings. So how cool would it be to replicate this online? Anthony, when I say recorded, I mean, yeah, you can have some pre-recorded stuff, but when recorded, I think that it could be really helpful to do a practice interview with somebody and then record that and show them what they looked like, show them what they sounded like. By the way, this is like a rule for most of the stuff that I'm going to share with you. This is not just for people with disabilities. Any of us can benefit from watching ourselves on video and seeing how these, how we show up. Case in point, we're recording this, and after I have a chance to take a couple deep breaths, I'm going to be watching this video myself to see how I can improve. And please include that information on your surveys. But how cool would it be to replicate what Debbie Moore does in person at Rotary online? And if you're looking for ways to stay connected to the network of people that you've been talking to as a job developer, this is a great way to do that. Okay. Let's thinking about executive functioning skills. So executive functioning skills, it's a little bit more complicated than soft skills. Maybe it's a little bit more technical. These skills have been described as the conductor for many more actions that will help keep people successful. So these skills include planning, making choices, time management, impulse control, and organization. Like I said, this is the other set of skills that can really make or break someone's job. And part of my role at WISE is that I help out teams of people that are stuck, and they're stuck for a variety of different reasons. But most of the time when they're stuck, it's because of these issues. And I think that there's a lot of things that we can do in transition programs and in all the different types of services that we provide to focus on these skills. I remember a couple years ago, I live in King County, which is the county that Seattle's in. And King County, when I say a couple years ago, I mean 6 years ago. Okay, so 6 years ago, King County embarked on a pilot project to really live up to their promise that that everybody who wants to work can work, and that when we say everybody, we mean everybody. So there was a certain profile student with more that was more significantly impacted by their disability that was being left out of employment services. So they started this pilot project to see what we could do to make that happen. And there was a variety of different interventions that was involved in this, including layering different types of person-centered planning, starting the team early. Many people, we started 2 years early talking about employment, and the result of that program has been just awesome. Really cool stuff is happening. And in that first year, so yeah, 6 years ago, I remember sitting with a team, and it was a person-centered planner, probably, gosh, it was either my coworker, Jim Corey, or Jamie Layton, and two incredible person-centered planners. If we're going to talk about person-centered planning in a second, but those were great people to have on your team. But I think one of them was doing the plan, and this teacher was so excited that the person that we're talking, the student with the disability, was able to go on break, and so and take breaks, and that was a new thing that they're working on. And so the employment consultant asked some questions about that, and the teacher excitedly explained, well, yeah, when it's time for him to take a break, I say, oh, look, it's 2:30, it's time for you to go on a break, and he goes. And after 15 minutes is done, I tell him, hey, you're 15 minutes, and he goes without a problem. And in the past, I think he probably had some problems leaving a break. And the school thought that they were done. And it was so incredible to watch this brilliant employment consultant in a real non-threatening way talk to the teacher and say, wouldn't it be great if he could know when his break was, independently transition to break, and then independently transition off? Because that employment consultant knew that that was the skill that would make or break a truly poverty lifting job, a job 20 hours or more, because you wouldn't need to have somebody there to tell that person to take a break. There was another school that I was working with as part of that project where when I walked into the classroom, they had this giant schedule that listed where all of the adults in the room were going to be, all the adults in the room, where they were going to be throughout the day and which students they're going to be working with. It was great in terms of managing the adults, but we weren't teaching the students anything about how to manage their day. So I spent a lot of time with that teacher building out these strip schedules that each student was in charge of setting up for themselves throughout the day. And there are some things in these schedules that don't change. You know, there's some things in your schedule, in your day, that you don't really have control over. But then there's other parts of your day that you do have control over. What do you do during your break time? What order do you want to do your work in? Sometimes you have that flexibility. So in these strip schedules, we had it set up so twice a day, the teacher or the paraeducator would sit down with each student and they'd plan out the rest of that day. These were great, very transferable to an employment setting. And then I went back the next year and there was a new teacher in the room, and I didn't tell him that I had spent a bunch of time working on these schedules, and I asked him, I was like, hey, I remember there being some strip schedules over here in the corner. Can you tell me how you guys are using those? And he's like, oh, you know, we really don't need to be working on that right now because we have enough adults in the room to manage everybody. What we really need to do is work on the hard skills that will get someone a job. And I look over into the corner, and the hard skill that the person, that the student was working on, was threading yarn through a board with some nails on it. So, you know, the true skill, the skill that could actually help keep that person successful, wasn't actually being worked on. So I have some strategies and tools that I want to share with you that I think can be really helpful. Stuff that you can work on along the lines of those executive functioning skills that I've been talking about, that you can do virtually and you can do in somebody's home right now. So first off, I want to share that, you know, I think that this coronavirus situation is giving us some interesting opportunities to think about the ways that we are typically supported by our routine, our commute, by our office, our coworkers. I don't know about you, but the first week of quarantine for me, just, I don't know where it went. And it was really challenging to kind of initiate some new rules between me and my partner, and all the stuff that goes with doing a job at home. The world now has a whole bunch of experience understanding what it feels like to not be supported, and probably has some experience building out really quickly some supports to keep people, keep yourself functional in your environment. So many of us are having to set up new support systems for ourselves and for other people in our house. So I just did a quick Google search for different ways that people are making COVID-19 daily schedules. You know, we have a lot of creativity and a lot of flexibility that now families are showing in how to keep order in their house while they're still required to do some work from home, and still, you know, keep everybody happy and keep everybody, you know, in the same room together. So what I'm going to do for the rest of today until we meet Fantasy at 2:30, I want to review a few strategies and tools with you that I think that you can be working with in people's homes. And for each tool, I'm going to explain what the tool is. I'm going to give you a use case for short and midterm during the stay-at-home and social distancing, some steps on how to use it, and some information and documentation that I think you can collect now to make the strategy relevant to the continued service, which I would think, and this is me projecting, right? I would think that explaining this in case notes and the communications you have with your funders is the primary way to make this billable for your services. And before I jump into any more strategies, I just want to offer, are there any questions? Beth, have I missed any questions in the chat box here? I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. Does anybody have any questions about those hard skills, soft skills, executive functioning skills that I may have missed here? Beth, did I miss anything?
Nope, it looks like you've been on it, Shaun, so no missed questions.
So while while I'm letting you think, or maybe you type, I do want to make a mention here for something that's been bugging me a little bit when I'm thinking about executive functioning skills. There's a really bad history in our field with that word functioning, where we create functioning levels, where we talk about somebody having the functional level of a 12-year-old or a 5-year-old, even if they're a 30 or 40-year-old. And a lot of that comes from these scales where we look at what is typical for somebody at a certain age, and then we measure that against a person with a disability. And the problem with that, it's numerous, right? But the big problem for me is that people with disabilities are given different opportunities than people without disabilities. And so the classic example for me is wayfinding and moving around a community. A lot of people in service with disabilities have a hard time wayfinding and moving independently in the community. Is that a function of their disability? Maybe, but probably not, because most of those adults with disabilities grew up in a school system that segregated them from other people. They were in one classroom, or maybe if they did have to move to a different part of the school, they were followed by a one-on-one paraeducator and have had no experience doing that on their own. Whereas the person that isn't labeled with a disability has had like 6 years experience coming out of junior high school doing that. So there could be some of you, especially people with disabilities on the call, who might get a little triggered by that word executive functioning. And I want you to know that I don't subscribe to that belief. So we did have one question from Mel: how do we get our entire team to think outside of the box? There's a lot of ways, Mel, and I think that you can lead with your results, and you can lead with all the amazing things that people can do when you treat them as humans and accommodate the challenges and the barriers that they have. So Rhiannon, she wants to hear some ideas for somebody who has TBI with difficult time with executive functioning. Yeah, okay, we'll get there right now, okay? Not this next strategy, but the strategy after that will be perfect for a profile of a person that is that has TBI. Okay. So, potentially billable activity number 3, person-centered planning. This is a picture of my good friend Jim. He is a brilliant person-centered planner, and I also know that he has been experimenting doing this virtually. So person-centered planning is a process that brings together a person and the people who know and care about that person to share hopes, dreams, and plans for the future. WISE and other organizations around the country have some excellent planners who could help you by facilitating a plan like this virtually. I think that when we were first confronted with this idea of like, how do we do a person-centered plan without having everybody in person, it was one of those things, well, we can't do it. But the more that the team thought about it, the more we had this realization that there is nothing that's limiting us from doing this. And in fact, we might actually get more people, one, because that auntie that's over on the East Coast might not be able to join us. Well, she can now if we're doing it over Zoom. And 2, what else are people going to do? Everyone's in their home, right? Or they should be. So now might be a really good time to do a person-centered plan. And here's how you know if it's time to do a person-centered plan. If you feel stuck, if you don't know what that next step is, if you are an employment consultant or somebody that's tasked with helping someone get a job, and you have no idea where to go, calling for a person-centered plan will help bring together everyone's really good ideas to start thinking about what you can work on now. Um, uh, if maybe you're getting ready for a transition, or if maybe you're getting ready, if the person, if you're a person in service and you've been doing something for a while that you kind of feel stuck in, maybe now is a great time to pull a facilitator in to help you talk about what's next and what else you can do. So I think person-centered planning is a great strategy. That is a great picture, Bethany, isn't it? I took that picture 5 years ago, I think, but I think it's very representative of how Jim does his plans, but it's not representative of the final product. He gives you a very good readable version of this, but this is maybe it's a glimpse into how our friend Jim's mind works. We'll see. Okay, so when I'm thinking about executive functioning, when I'm thinking about helping someone stay safe, helping someone understand what's happening with this COVID situation, the number one tool that comes to mind for me is social narratives. So social narratives help explain social context. They explain to what extent a given situation, what to expect of a given situation, and appropriate ways to react. So I want you all on the call to start thinking about situations that apply right now in this COVID situation, that you can start using this tool. And we're going to come back to that question in just a couple of minutes. So start thinking about it and get ready to start typing it. Because I think this is the primary tool that you all can use right now to help people in service. So there's two ways that I think about using social narratives with the population that I serve. One, you're going to use a social narrative before a transition or a new experience to help someone understand what to expect. After a social error, and I have a hard time with that word, but maybe you in chat can help me with a better word for this. But after a social error has occurred, as a way to understand what happened, as a way to help that person understand what happened in that situation. So how do you make them? First, you want to define the situation for yourself. So define what's actually happening. What are you writing this about? And we want to map out the contingencies here. So if you are making a social narrative for a person, with a person who might have a struggle in a certain type of situation, I want you to be this is the time for you to be very clear about what worst case scenario looks like for that situation, because you want to give direction, work with the person that you're supporting on what happens in a worst case scenario. What reaction could that person do to calm the situation down? Two, you're going to identify the target, what that person should be doing, and you're going to work with that person as much as possible. And this is possibly a difference for those of you that have experience doing these social narratives in a child setting with little kids versus when you're working with adults. But as much as possible, work with that person. I'm going to give you some examples in a second of what this looks like. But to find out what's relevant in that person's life. So metaphor is a great way for people to understand how things should be. And I remember I was doing this training and around similar topics to this in Eastern Washington, and I got a call, or I got an email from somebody in Eastern Washington that was a journalist like me, and the email was like, "Oh, I'm so excited that you're coming. I've just started working with adults. I have experience working with kids, and I would really like some support on how to program out someone's special interests." And it's just like, oh, okay, so problematic in so many ways, right? I would never seek to program out someone's special interest, but rather I'm going to seek to understand what that special interest is, and I'm going to use it to our advantage in designing some supports. You could also work with that person to help understand what something feels like and alternative reactions. When you're designing these supports typically look like stories. You're going to identify whether it's best to write them in first person or a second person. So that's like, you know, I am going to be staying at home today, or you are going to be staying at home today. So you got to figure out what the right tone is for the person that you're working with. And then you're going to use pictures, icons, words that are relevant to that person. So in your resource document, I've included a link to the Autism Internet modules. Those are really helpful. So I want to give you a couple of examples of what this could look like. So give me a second here. Stop my share. And I'm going to restart my share. Got like so many things happening on my computer here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of different examples here of what this could look like. This is one that I wrote recently for a young man who is, after many years of being kind of out of the employment system, he was going to be restarting and be rejoining this employment world. And when I went and visited him at his house, he had The Incredibles going on, and he had a whole bunch of incredible stuff all around him. And so the Incredibles were something that were really relevant to him. So the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, how can I use The Incredibles in his supports? And the reason, backing up here, the reason why we were designing supports for him is because he got really anxious when he tried new things, and getting a job is like the definition of trying something new. And particularly the way that anxiety came out is it didn't really show up. Sometimes it showed up in the environment. Rarely would he get aggressive towards staff, but he could get quite aggressive towards his mother. And so we're really worried about making sure that mom stays safe. So this is a story that I wrote. I asked him to draw a picture of Elastigirl. So that's his drawing. Elastigirl has special powers. She's flexible. I defined what flexibility. And one feature of a lot of stories that I write is I include discussion questions. So as you're going through this with an individual, you can ask that person a question. So why else is it important for Elastigirl to be flexible? My name is Jared, and I can also be flexible. So his name, I've changed names and pictures. His name is not Jared. Sometimes new things make me nervous, and that is an okay feeling. So one of his challenges was when he starts feeling uncomfortable, he thinks he's going to get in trouble. So that was one thing that we wanted to kind of figure out right away. One strategy to help me is if I imagine myself as Elastiboy. New things are not so hard when I can imagine myself being flexible. So we had a informational interview set up for him. And this is on Tuesday, January 21st, Elastiboy is going on a job tour with his job coach, Matt. This is not Matt. This is a picture of my little brother. My brother. He doesn't like it when I call him my little brother because he's grown up now. He's my brother. So I'm going to go visit Ryanet and learn about all the cool things that happened there. First, Elastiboy's mom will drive him to Ryanet. This obviously is not Elastiboy's mom, but her picture was there. That's our coworker, Brandy. There are several ways to get there. Elastiboy's mom will pick the best and shortest route. Wherever we go, it should only take 14, 20 minutes. So talking about what we're going to do. This, by the way, this took me all of 15 minutes to make on PowerPoint. This is not a hard thing to do. And if you think it's hard, just practice making them a couple times. PowerPoint has all these tools to make your stuff look really, it's this like designer function that makes things look really good. I pulled this picture, and I pulled the picture, you're not seeing it right now, but Matt's picture I pulled off of his employment agency's website. And then his mom's picture, I did a search for her name and with the word Facebook, and was able to find her Facebook profile. So like I totally like internet creeped all over this case and got all these pictures. Same thing here. This picture of the inside of Ryanet I got from Google Maps, and this picture of Tim, who we were going to meet that day, I found that in a trade magazine that was online. So I snipped that picture. And this last part was really important for him. Sometimes Elastiboy needs a break, and breaks are okay. So if I want to break during my tour, anytime I'm with Matt, all I have to say is I need a break. Taking breaks does not mean I'm in trouble. Breaks are good. Sometimes I need a break. I don't realize it. If Matt notices me stomping my feet, sticking out my tongue, or doing other things that make him think I need a break, he might say, I think you need a break. And then finally, I asked Jared, what are some things that you can do to calm down. And he had this, and most people, when you ask, have strategy. You're working with adults, right? So like you're working with people who walk in the door with a whole list of strategies that will help them. So he said, oh, I draw a picture, and he drew a beautiful picture of me. I do Google image searches on my phone. I read about sharks, or I take I do breathing exercises. So I have pictures of all that, and we turned this into a little card support that his job coach could show him if he started to get anxious. A couple other examples of social stories that are particular to COVID, and all these COVID examples are linked to in the resource page that you're going to be getting as part of the packet of information from me. This is one I found online that explain what's happening. And I think this is the type of things that you can potentially billable activity is you can make these for the people that you're supporting. Here's another one I really liked. This one uses icons with words. You know, it really, the diversity of these really shows you how specialized you can get with these, and how you really should spend some time getting to know the person, which is such a beautiful opportunity that you have here, where we're kind of asked to take a pause and take a break, because you have some space to figure this out. So when I think about what it's going to take to make this billable, I think about learning about what works for the individual through this crisis, documenting it, and keeping everything that you make as a template for things that you'd use when you restart services. Yeah, Mary, I found these on Google. I typed in social stories and COVID, but all of these are linked to the resource page that you'll be getting after this class. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to show you with social narratives is some internet modules. I don't know if y'all use these, but this is a great resource. This is, it's autisminternetmodules.org. That website is on the resource page that I shared with you. You sign up for a free account, scroll down to autism in the workplace. Autism, that's because all the research money, autism, but a lot of this stuff will for a lot of different folks. And so there is a, all these are different modules that give you a pre and a post test and gives you some video watch, really great on-demand resources. Let me log in again so you can see what this looks like. Okay, autism in the workplace, social narratives. And so you get guidelines, you get examples, and unfortunately, a lot of these examples are going to be around children, even though it says autism in the workplace, but it can still apply, just fit what you know about the person into it. But social stories, social scripts, cartooning, comic strip conversation, power cards, social autopsies, these are all examples of social narratives. This will take you about 45 minutes to get through, and it will give you a certificate afterwards. So if your manager's out there and you're looking for things that your people can do aside from the WISE resources, once you've exhausted our resources, you can use this. Okay. Where am I? I'm like lost in my desktop here. Okay. Go back to sharing. I'm going to go back to sharing my PowerPoint for y'all. Okay. Let me just catch where I'm at here. Okay. So, social narratives. Potential billable activity number 4. So I think these have a lot of long-term potential. It's one of my favorite tools. They're easy, they're effective, super effective. Honestly, I think in most of the times that I'm working with teams, one of my primary recommendations is to use one of these plans. And oftentimes stories. Oftentimes what I hear from providers like, oh, that's really hard, or it requires a specialized. Melissa, I see here that you're asking a specialized app. Yes, there are specialized apps. Don't use them. Like you get an app for $100 to help you make an app for social narratives on an iPad. But if you have access to Google Slides, which is free, or PowerPoint, you really don't need that specialized software. There's some things that they can do that might fit a very specialized situation. So maybe you have one that really works for people, but use PowerPoint. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, because what I hear from providers like, oh, that took one of my employment consultants 20 hours to make. I don't have the budget for 20 hours. No, this should take you 15, 20 minutes to make. Track what about the story is effective and what wasn't. And anything that you build to support a person now in the short or the midterm has potential to be helpful in, one, keeping that person connected to service because they're working with you, and two, understanding what tools will best support that person back into employment. So that's some of the information you might want to track to make sure that you're keeping this relevant for your funders. I want to attend to a couple questions that I'm seeing in the chat box here. So first question, it was I think it was private, but it was around HIPAA. If we have, so Amy asks if there were any challenges around HIPAA with virtual platforms. So first thing I'll say is that it is on you, the practitioner, to understand how the tools that your employer is giving you to do your job do and don't fit with HIPAA. Here's what I know. Zoom platform is HIPAA compliant if it is set up that way. Microsoft Teams and OneNote is also set up to be HIPAA compliant. Google Hangouts is not necessarily HIPAA compliant unless you, your company has purchased Google software. So what needs to be contained under HIPAA and what doesn't is also something for you to have a conversation with your employer about. A good example that we run into around this is with video resumes. So you have organizations that have everything really locked down because you don't want to share anything about an individual with other people. Well, that kind of flies in the face of doing a video resume that you're trying to share with people. So there's different considerations that you need to make. Patricia talks about a client whose world is anime and cartoons. And I'll tell you, Patricia, I remember when I first got started in this work 18 years ago, we were told to never use smiley faces and stickers and all those things. And the reality is that if you've ever been to Disneyland, there are so many adults who are into what is so-called childish stuff in the typical world that we really moved away from that. We can have entire conversations with emojis. So I don't know about any cartoons that could help you, but I have to imagine that with the world experiencing what it's experiencing right now, there absolutely has got to be some stuff out there that have been done with anime on using masks. So if you find anything cool, let me know. Okay, let's talk a little bit about video modeling. It's another thing that I think you can be doing with people right now virtually. So what is video modeling? It's when you teach people something through video. Research has been consistent. Not everyone learns well with video, but a lot of people do. And for those that do, the benefits are expansive. So if you are the type of person that learns well with video, you most likely will learn things quicker than if you didn't use video. And the second thing that's been shown in research, and I've linked a research article in the resources page that will give you this information, people can generate spontaneous adaptive skills around generalizing the use of the device that shows the video. That sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but here's what it means. It means that if you get video, put it into a device, you can't see a device because of my green screen, but I have a device here, a cell phone. If you put that video onto a device and have that person use it to stay supported, that person will most likely start manipulating that device to make it useful for themselves in other contexts. That's what the research has shown, and it is super exciting. So let's talk about how you can use video. Potential billable activity number 5 in marketing. Can you update your marketing materials, including video resumes? Could you involve the person in service by teaching them the skills to make their own video resumes right now, virtually? Yes, you can. Especially if you, so if you have content that you could already put together into a video resume, and I'm going to give you some tools for that in a second, do it. But how cool would it be to have the person that you're working with, have the skills to make their own video resume? And just like, anybody else, the majority of us, the first couple times around doing something, we're not going to do it that well. So we need some practice. So why don't we have that person practice making videos about what their life looks like in quarantine, or what their life looks like staying home with their family. You can totally do this right now. Potentially billable activity number 6, can you use video modeling to teach someone something new? Does the person want to learn something new around the house? Can you explore how to best construct a video to help that person learn? So you might be questioning, well, if I'm teaching someone something new in the home, how do I make that billable and relevant to an employment service? Well, you consider these variables. You consider and you learn what the best type of instructional video is. Perspective. Is it third person? So that's looking at like 2 people over there and the camera is over here? Or is it point of view perspective? So is the camera over your eyes while you're recording and you're taking a point of view video? Is it helpful if a task is sped up or slowed down? Is it helpful to include or not include sounds and music? What's a good length for a video? And how adaptable is that video to working with the family? So these are all things that you can capture and make sure, capture to see if it works for your person. Okay, so let me show you. I'm gonna try to share my screen here on my phone. See if that works. Yay, okay. So I do a video resume, video production webinar, and I did it just a couple weeks ago. And we're gonna be doing it again. I don't know exactly when we're gonna be doing it, but when we redo it, I'm gonna turn it into an on-demand so you all can access it. But when I teach, I use an app called Quick. And for my video resume training a couple weeks ago, I was in quarantine, so I went and took some videos of me feeding my chickens in the backyard. So what I want to show you, this app, Quick by GoPro, it uses artificial intelligence to make your video look really, really cool. So what I'm going to do, I've just got clips of me doing what I need to do to feed the chickens. I'm going to show you how easy it is to put together a video. So here's all my clips. I'm going to select them. I'm going to add them. Now I'm not thinking that I'm not going to be teaching anybody right now. You're not going to learn necessarily from here how to do these videos, but I just want you to see how easy it is to make a video that looks pretty professional. So without any effort, this app has edited together all these different clips of me doing what I need to do to feed the chickens. Pretty cool. When we do, yeah, Sky, you're gonna learn how to feed the chickens. That's right. So let me, I've got so many different things here. Exit without saving. Okay, let me show you what this video turned into so you can kind of see the result of this on. So I teach using Quick, and then I give you a couple other options of what this could look like. If you want to make it just a little bit more fancy. So this is an example of the video that I ended up making.
Today we are going to feed the chickens and give them some water, and we're going to try to check for some eggs.
So this video took me all of an hour to edit and then to pull into another editor
So first thing you got to do is go into the car and grab the chicken feed that we got from the store yesterday. Then you're going to bring it into the backyard.
Okay. I'll just zoom ahead so you can see what these girls look like.
Shake it a few times just to make sure it's all settled down there.
That's Susie right there with the big poof of hair, and that's Pam. So download Quick by GoPro. It's an awesome app to really help you make some moves here. And if you need some more support, just wait. We're going to be providing you that in an upcoming webinar. So the next app that I want to show you is Google Keep. So I'm going to need to get this back. Let's see. So Google Keep is an incredible free app. It is not designed for us. It is designed to help you keep your grocery list coordinated with other people in your house. But it can do really great things for us. So I'm going to show you. This is a Keep note that some of my students made in a workshop that I was doing. So Google Keep, it's a list, right? So you can check off these lists. You can check off the things that happen. You can have videos and pictures. I don't even remember where this was. If any of you all from this picture are on this call, let me know. That would be cool. And there's some really cool features of this. So the first feature is you can add collaborators. So you can help somebody set this up for some sort of routine in their home, and you can add yourself as a collaborator, and you able to see in real time that person checking off their list. The other thing you can do is, and this is what makes Google Keep smart, is you can add by clicking this little bell icon up here. You can make this Keep note show up on the person's device at a certain day and time, or you can use the GPS. It's built into your phone to set this up in a way that so it will show up when the person walks into the door of their employment site or something like that. So these this is a fantastic app, and I totally recommend you trying it. It's free. There's other versions, like Microsoft has a version, I think it's called To Do. Wunderlist also has some similar features, but this is one that I totally recommend. The next one that I want to show you is Habitica. So this one, how do I stop? That's Eleanor, by the way, if you're curious. So Habitica, I learned about from some really cool transition teachers up in rural Alaska. We're talking places where you cannot drive to. And they had their whole class set up on Habitica. And Habitica is an app that uses nerd culture to help people self-monitor. So it uses nerd culture to set their own habits, set their own rewards for doing those goals, and then you level up the player using a whole bunch of like that nerd culture that I was talking about to battle monsters with your friends that are all based on your habits and your goals. So the way that this transition teacher had set this up is that each student in his classroom had set their own goals for transition to see if like around their transition internships. And this is particularly helpful for those people who might be a little bit more, you get into sort of those power plays a little bit that you find yourself like, you know, like I don't want to do that, you know, and it's like, it will help them, but you know, they know how to do it, but you know, you're always getting in that power play with them. This will help somebody kind of manage that on their own. Brilliant what this teacher was able to do. I have a couple ideas of how you could possibly make this an activity that you can do with people in service. So let me go back to my PowerPoint here. So with Google Keep, going back to Google Keep, can you use Google Keep to help people right now adapt to a new routine? All of us are needing to adapt to a new routine. Can you use Google Keep to help while at the same time exploring what works and what doesn't work in coaching remotely? Having some strategies to coach remotely with your participant means they can work more hours since you don't have to be there. What an opportunity it is for you to do that right now. It's one of the really exciting things that we get to do. With Habitica, can you use Habitica to help the person you're working with set goals for themselves around staying connected to employment? What would that look like for the individual? Helping someone organize and track their own personal growth around things that matter to them is a great pathway to ensure that the person in service is benefiting from career growth over time. Really cool stuff you can do with Habitica here. So as kind of a segue to meeting our, let me actually just look at the chat box real quick, just make sure I haven't missed anything. Does Quick have an option to add captions or video descriptions? So you can add words to a screen, but it's not an ADA caption. And I would use Camtasia or another similar product, or you could possibly upload something to YouTube and use YouTube's captioning software if you needed captions. Google Keep. Are you able to lock the list so they're not edited? No. So again, Google Keep's not designed for us. It's designed for the whole world. And so I'm constantly in conversation with Google, and what that means is I'm always sending emails into the void and never hearing anything back, telling them about things that they could do, features they can add to this to make it more relevant to us. So yeah, it's not there yet, and it's not the perfect solution, but it's a solution. It's free. Janet, how can we adapt this for CI clients? I think you would probably be better than me at explaining this, but I think that anything, CI, what you need to know about a person to get them set up with CI is remarkably similar to employment. It's not that different. So helping somebody wayfind, track a routine, feel successful, understand something new, all these are tools that you can use, strategies that we've shared to help somebody be successful in a community integration type context. There really should not be a difference between the supports you'd use in CI and employment. Okay, can we use this time to rethink the way that we do technology supports? Yes. Short answer is yes. So here is a definition I want you to consider. Applied cognitive technology as technology supports that enable people with cognitive disabilities to successfully function in inclusive environments, to increase participation in tasks and activities in inclusive environments, and to promote social inclusion and self-determination and quality of life. So possible billable activity number 9, can you help people access technology? Can you help people access and learn technologies that will help them work remotely, organize life, or connect to a community? So I have a positive behavior support background, you know that already. And so in positive behavior supports, we like to think of our supports as this like pyramid, right? And the bottom of the pyramid are universal things that help everybody. And as we move up that pyramid, we get to more specialized interventions. We can think about technology supports in a similar way, that there are things that we can do that help everybody, right? And then as we move up this pyramid, things get more and more specialized. The problem around assistive technology, when I say problem, I'm thinking about the ways that we fund it, is that funders have been really keen to fund the tippy top of that pyramid. And the tippy top of that pyramid are solutions that solve very specific problems that are incredible, right? And so these are 2 videos that we have on our Wise Movies YouTube channel, Bob and Paul showing some incredible uses of specialized technology. But assistive technology does not need to be just that. It doesn't need to be just those specific things. And funders in the past have had a hard time funding more general pieces of technology like a laptop or a cell phone, because that can also help you access Facebook. And is Facebook assistive technology? I want to argue that it is. So think about this definition. Technology supports enable people to successfully function, inclusive environments, increase participation, tasks, activities, and to promote social inclusion, self-determination, quality of life. In just a few minutes, and if Charlie, can you let me know on a private chat when Fantasy A is in the chat here? But I want to introduce you to my friend Fantasy. So we at Wise, in partnership with DDA funded it, we produced a series of videos that highlighted the ways that people with disabilities were using technology. And so this is how I met Fantasy. I had, of course, known about him already because he is the undisputed king of hustle in Seattle. We'll talk about that in a second. But take a look at this video as a way to get to know our guy Fantasy.
On the 4th floor of the Seattle Center Armory, Alexander Hubbard crafts his beats with the help of assistive technology. In here, and when he's performing, he's Fantasy A.
And I am normal like other autistic people.
For the girls, I can try to do things up all above. I have a brave heart to control my weakness. For the ladies want for me to show them sweetness.
The 23-year-old hip-hop artist was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at age 3. Hubbard says that being on the autism spectrum helps explain some problems he's had both at home and in social situations. In the studio, though, that frustration fuels his creativity.
And I record songs and I write songs about my life struggles I've been through and all the things that have been bothering me and how I don't like when people took advantage of me.
When he was younger, Hubbard had trouble with just basic conversation. On the mic, the words now flow freely.
On the cards for friends I like.
It makes me feel a bit motivated to get my music going when it comes to recording. It will help me to make my life better and keep it moving forward. And that's how I get into music, and it makes me feel really passionate.
After recording, Hubbard shares his music online. Fantasy A is extremely savvy when it comes to social media.
What's up, y'all? My name is Fantasy A, aka Alexander Hubbard.
The online community offers encouragement and feedback and provides him with something he truly values, genuine connection. He also doesn't mind the celebrity, though, that comes with being a hip-hop artist. He was profiled in The Stranger and even got his own comic strip in Seattle Weekly. Most of all, though, Hubbard hopes others with Asperger's will also take advantage of social media and assistive technology to express themselves.
If they hide their feelings, nobody would know. If they express their feelings out, people will know, and they will listen, and they will watch what they're trying to do.
What a cool guy, Fantasy. Before we chat with him, I want, and we'll have a couple minutes here for questions. I want you to think about what he showed us about the way that he generates his online community and how he does that via SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, from a 7-year-old laptop and a Samsung Galaxy cell phone. Those are, in my opinion, technology supports that enable somebody like him to function in an inclusive environment, to participate in inclusive environments, and to promote social inclusion, self-determination, and quality of life. So we'll have some time with him in just a little bit here. He's getting logged on. I wanted to open up some space for anybody that might have any questions for us, anything that we talked about, anything that you want us to attend to. Has anything shown up for anybody that you want us to talk about, or any questions about the content or the strategies that we've recommended here? Yeah, Erica says she likes the use of apps. There's so much stuff that we can do with people, and I think, you know, when, at least for me, when I first started using technologies in supported employment, we were really looking for things that were built for people with disabilities. And we're at this point right now where you use things that work for everybody, because technology companies are really understanding that when they design things for us, they make their products better for more accessible, more easy to use for everyone. So you'll also find, you know, a lot of those apps that I maybe spent some money on or asked people to spend money on years ago aren't being supported anymore because they're not being used by a wide enough group of people. So I think that's why it's so important to focus our technology on that universal design aspect. So a couple people were asking questions about, you know, what the different potential billable activities were. You're gonna get, because you signed up for this webinar, you're gonna get all of my materials, and that's all gonna be listed in all the yellow slides, so keep that in mind. So you'll get all that information. One of the questions was from Casey about how to make things billable. And I'm gonna preface this. This is me like recommending. This is like Shaun one of the peculiar things about my work is that nobody has to listen to what I say, and I have no authority over anything. So this is just me making assumptions about the way that you can make this billable. But one, you stay connected to people in service by making sure that that you're supporting them through a very tough and very challenging time. You do that through virtual coaching strategies. And I think that the way that you can make this relevant to starting back up or someone's employment is to really track that information that we shared on those individual strategies of what works and what doesn't. And especially when it comes to technologies that a person can use themselves, especially stuff that you can that you can use themselves, you can use this moment to help that person understand that technology. We have this break, all of us, that we didn't anticipate having, that's here all of a sudden. So it looks like we've got Alexander coming up here. I'm going to unmute you, Alex. Can you hear me, Alexander?
Yes, I'm here now.
Right on. Hey, let me just pull up, let me close this down here. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, I thought it was. That's funny. So Fantasy, I just showed that video that we did.
Yeah, I saw that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we've got
Hey guys, thank you so much.
Of people. Yeah, hundreds of people here looking forward to meeting you.
Hey Jim. Hey James. It's a pleasure to meet you. Hey everyone.
So Fantasy, for those who don't know you, can you explain to them what you do?
Sure. I'm an autistic well-known musician from Seattle that writes personal songs about my personal life struggles and the things I'm good with and what's been going on every year. And also I put up flyers around Seattle for 6 years that people recognize me through them.
And why do they call you the undisputed king of hustle?
The reason why I call myself king of hustle because I do more hustle than any other artist.
I have seen your posters, like I mean, just in the most random places, but also it seems like you get everywhere. So how far have you gone to put your posters up on the walls?
How far? Like, I know I do Seattle all the time, but I go as further south as Olympia and up north by Everett.
And then you also I've seen your posters out west too, right? And on the peninsula?
Yes, that's what I did.
That's awesome. Now, one of the reasons why they call you the king of hustle is that you stay so busy. Can you tell us about your other jobs?
Yes, I work with the city of Seattle at Seattle Public Utilities as an office maintenance aide doing floor sweeping, data entry, and filing paperwork. And I've been working there for 2 years now.
2 years now. And then you have a job coach, right?
Yes, I have a job coach for Mainstay.
How does your job coach support you to stay healthy during this time of coronavirus?
Like keeping everything all sanitized and staying home all the time.
Do they check in with you?
Yeah, they check in with me every week.
Every week?
Yeah.
Do they have do you have any message or an advice for the job coaches? So we've got hundreds of job coaches that are on the line right now. Do you have any advice for the people out there on how they could be the best job coach possible?
Well, my advice to give all the job coaches, I would say keep checking with your clients and make sure that they do the same thing. Make sure that they always stay indoors and make sure they got everything all stocked up. That's why I advise to give the job coaches to check in with their clients and make sure they're okay.
Right on. So I've got on my screen here. So I showed your poster here, and then I've also got I really like this picture that you posted on social media with this cat. So that's a picture of you out postering, right?
Oh, yes, I was about to send you that, but it's all right.
It's all right, we got it. So what has been your biggest accomplishment so far?
Well, my biggest accomplishment so far is I've been on the radio on the Cube 93 at the Wake Up Show with Strawberry and Lilith Love, and so yeah, been recognized. I've been playing at Folk Life, and my biggest accomplishment I did is playing at the Capitol Block Party at the Cha Cha Lounge.
Oh, that's cool. I've got a video here of your folk life performance. You were performing at the
At the
Sky Church, right?
Yes.
That is an absolutely gorgeous and huge stage. How did it feel being on that big of a stage?
Well, first I was a bit nervous, but after that I got over my nerves to be brave, to look in front of everyone.
Do you have any advice for how other people can be brave when things are scary?
Well, y'all, I will give y'all advice. Don't be nervous. Like if you start acting nervous, just take deep breaths. Just take deep breaths and let the nerves out.
That's great advice. Alex, I don't know if you can see the chat box right now, but the people want to see the video. Can I play it for them?
Sure. Go ahead.
CPCA, give them high fives. I'm a great president with the right plan. See how let me take on the land. Keep fighting over.
That's awesome. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's a song.
So, what platforms do you use? Because you're a really creative guy when it comes to music, but you're also really creative when it comes to using social media to build your community and to talk to the people. So what platforms are you on, and how do you connect with your fans and supporters?
Well, the platforms I use is YouTube, and how I got them connected is have them subscribe to my YouTube channel and also Instagram to have them follow me and reach me in my DMs. That's how we get connected. Have them reach me in my inbox, and I also have them reach me on my Facebook fan page, and they can reach me in my inbox as well. That's how we all get connected.
So Fantasy, I love every single time you post your Fantasy Chop Friday, I watch it. And I wanted to share one of those fantasy chops with the people right now. Can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I love it. Can you tell us about these chops? What are they, and how did you get started doing them?
Well, how I started doing that is like when I feel the beats and I do this and that to give them the slow start, and that's how people know about the fantasy chop they would do. One of my fans suggested they call it fantasy chop because of my hand movement back in 2017, 2016. That's the reason why my fan will call it fantasy chop. Y'all see what I'm doing? That's what Fantasy A does every Friday mornings and every Friday afternoons.
And hundreds and hundreds of people wait for you to do that. Really? That you make their day by.
Yes.
It's Friday right now. Is there any chance we could do a fantasy chop right now?
Yes. All right, guys, ready for a fantasy chop?
Something like this?
All the ladies know that the ladies man. Folks didn't find out as a really command.
I love it. Thank you so much, Fantasy.
Yeah.
It makes my day to be able to do that with you. I've watched so many of these videos at home.
Really?
Thank you.
That's what's up. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it is what's up. So tell me, what is your motto?
Well, my motto is to everyone is to be yourself, be inspired, and be respectful. But this time, I updated my flyer. This time, you have to be yourself, be inspired, be respectful, and wash your hands.
That's right. Okay, so can you give the people any advice on how they can do a better job of being themselves?
Well, my advice to give everyone is to, don't be like anyone else. Just think about before you'll be becoming that person, because that will, changing your attitude. So my best advice to give y'all is just, think about what you want to be, and that's how you be yourself, is by, think of good thoughts for everyone and how much you care about them. That's my advice to give you.
It's really good advice. I mean, right now is a really scary time for lots of people. And your motto is such a perfect motto for people to keep in mind as they're getting scared with the current situation. I really like that second part about people being respectful. I've heard that most of us are home from work. You're home from work right now, but the grocery stores and the pharmacies are still open, and there's been quite a few people who are not being very respectful to the workers that are there. Do you have any advice for how people can be respectful?
How they will be respectful is my advice to give y'all is just to take deep breaths, just calm down instead of spreading out negativity. So just think positive. Instead of that, just be like calm down, take deep breaths. So and be patient. That's how people, when they're in the grocery store, just be happy, not to give people any behavior. That's my advice to give you guys.
And deep breaths, is that something that you do for yourself to keep
Yes.
respectful? Can you
Yes.
show us what that looks like?
What it looks like, you guys, instead of being mean, just be nice to others. And if they give you a hard time, tell them have a good day.
And just move on, right?
Move on. Yeah, just move on, you guys. Don't avoid, like, try to avoid people with attitudes. Just move on from the people, avoid them, because it's their loss. So
Now, Fantasy, you told me that you've got a special surprise for the people today. You've got a new coronavirus song that's coming out. It's not released yet, but are you thinking that you can give us a little preview of what the words are going to sound like?
yes, my new song that I'll be releasing in about next week or two. It's called The Coronavirus Madness. It's about what's been going on this year. And I'll play maybe like 4 bars or something. So this is how it sounds. We need to survive by distance the coronavirus spread. Now the coronavirus is the scariest story I've ever read. If you feel sick or ill, just please stay at home. Don't want the coronavirus spread towards my Tacoma Dome. That's how it sounds.
Right on. Round of applause. Thank you so much. That's really awesome that you shared that with us.
Yeah. It's just a little.
So I'm going to open up the chat if anybody has any questions for anybody. Or I'm sorry, if anybody has any questions for Fantasy, I will read them to you. While they're typing out their questions, Fantasy, do you have a final message for the people?
The final message? Yeah. When the virus is over, and if y'all see me out on the streets, just say what's up to we, the Fantasy. Oh, Josiah Daniels, who is your favorite rap artist? My favorite rap artist, to be honest, is I think it's Tupac because he's inspired. He talks about what's been bothering him and everything else. And there's a question for Jim there. What's the question for Jim?
Jim says, how do you learn to use all the technology that makes work possible?
How do I learn it?
Yeah, how did you learn it?
How do I learn that? When I was at the center school back in 2010, I was in the hip hop club, and they bring out their own laptop, and they taught me how to make my own beats and everything. That's how I use technology to come up with software.
Now, somebody, Anita, she asks, how did you come up with your stage name, Fantasy A?
How I came up with that is I read fiction books based on magic and action, because I'm like magic, and A stands for Alex, which is how I came up with. And that's why.
Dina asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question, Dina. Thank you so much. What I see myself in 5 years is working in an entertainment industry and performing in big concerts like Tacoma Dome, T-Mobile Park, CenturyLink Field, and Key Arena.
Daniel doesn't ask a question, but he just wants you to know that you inspire him and that he loves your positive attitude.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate the kind words.
What is your, so Haley asks, do you have a favorite song of yours that you've produced?
My favorite song I produced is Can't Stand Anxiety, because I don't want to do 3 things in one time, because it's giving me a lot of stress.
Can't Stand Anxiety. So people can look up that song on your YouTube, right?
Yes, they can look it up on YouTube. Can't Stand Anxiety by Fantasy A featuring Miss MS Price.
Okay. We've got time for maybe just a couple more questions. So Amy asks, how is your current job going to help you get to where you want to go in 5 years?
How they're going to help me?
Yeah, how your current job helps you get to where you want to go.
How it helps me get to go is I will make the coworkers happy, give keep up the good work, and they want me to show them all the work I did on time and follow the rules really well. That's how my current job helps me to succeed more in my job.
So Fantasy, I told you that we've got hundreds of people on the call today and that we are broadcasting all over the country. So
really?
Let's do one more question. It's from my friend Rebecca. Rebecca is writing to you from the state of New Mexico. And she says, what is your advice for other young people on the autism spectrum who want to be a performer? That's a good last question, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's a great last question. Yeah. My advice to give to the people from the state of Mexico, New Mexico, for autism is you can write some ideas down, write a journal, and if you have any bad days or what you're happy about, just write down some ideas, like write down your journal and turn them into a song. And if you have someone that can help you record, make beats for, just let people know that you want to share what you've written. And if they like it, they can put you on, and that's how you became a performer. And people can start calling you and ask you if you'd like to come in to show them what you've written. That's my advice to give to the autistic people in the state of Mexico.
That's a great answer. You know, Fantasy, it is Friday. It has been a really long week. It's been a really long several weeks for those of us that have been sitting at home. And I just really appreciate you logging on today and giving us your words of encouragement, positivity, and also sharing with us how you build your online community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Shaun. I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy to be part of this meeting.
Anytime. All right, folks.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. I will stick around if anybody has further questions that you want to talk about with any of the stuff that we shared today. I'll be here for a couple more minutes. But that's all we've got for you today. We've shared so many ideas, and it's been really inspiring to see people in the chat sharing all their ideas. We are all one community. We are doing this. We are holding on to this idea of employment and helping keeping people connected so they can stay safe, stay informed, and ready to restart their jobs once we get going. I know that all of you out there are going to come up with some incredible ideas. And as you do, please share them with me so we can share them with the wider community of all the neat things that you're doing to keep people connected and safe. Thank you for your work. You all are doing real work out there, and it's so, so important. With that, Fantasy and I say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.